The Big Ten should just bully the SEC into making a 9-game conference schedule. Will Illinois win 9 or more games again and expanding the NCAA tournament? Please, no, thank you. That on today's Locked On Big Ten Squad.
You're talking ball with the Big Ten Squad, sponsored by Game Time. From USC to Ohio State, from Michigan to Oregon, from Nebraska to Washington, it's the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network bringing you scoops, breakdowns, and the most comprehensive preview of the upcoming Big Ten weekend. No hurt feelings and thin skin allowed. Squad up, you're part of the Big Ten Squad.
Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to this week's Locked On Big Ten Squad. I'm Spencer McLaughlin, your host. Sonny Verma of Locked On Illini has actually made an appearance. What do you know? Jay Stevens of Locked On Buckeyes returns. Zach Sako, Locked On Nittany Lions. No humming this week, but he's still here. Jacob Goins of Locked On Hoosiers and Roman Tomashoff of Locked On Huskies. Let's hop right into it, gentlemen. This be the conference that has won the last 2 national championships, which we haven't been able to say for quite some time. And there have been a lot of debates about what the next playoff format's going to be when it goes, if it goes to 16 teams. And reportedly, one of the holdups in the discussions between the 2 most powerful conferences in college football is the Big Ten looked at the SEC and said, wait a minute. Why do you get the same number of teams into the playoff as us if we're playing an extra conference game? So, Sonny, you may start us off. Should the Big Ten just continue to put its foot down on the SEC and say, no, we don't have to do everything you want to do now because we're better than you now? I'm not saying that. That's just what the Big Ten should say.
That is exactly what they should say. That's what Brett Bielema is saying, and that's what we all should be saying. For 2 decades, we had to listen to the SEC commissioners, the coaches, all tell us how they were better than everyone and they were going to dictate all the rules. Guess what? Over the last 2 years, that hasn't been the case. Big Ten is king now, and it's time for us to act like it.
Yeah, I think we do still have to listen to them say it. It just doesn't land the same with everybody else as much as it used to. I mean, Jay Stevens, you of all people should know just how easy it is to beat SEC teams, right?
You're exactly right. Just like that game that happened on January 1st. We can't forget that one either.
Oh.
Pretty bad. That was
Did you see? You see, that was me offering you an olive branch, and that was you spitting in my face.
Good.
I mean,
rude.
The outcome was
I think
the
we're
outcome,
all okay
yes.
with that here.
Yeah, I think so. I'm also okay with the Big Ten doing this and trying to bully the SEC into playing another conference game. While you're at it, go to the ACC too and make them play 9 conference games. I think across the board, if you're a power conference, it should just be an understood rule that you play 9 conference games. It's very hard to do that when the conferences govern themselves and outside influences don't have to – they can try to push them to do certain things, but ultimately the commissioners of these conferences have the final say-so. I hope down the road, whenever there is a governing body governing this sport, they make sure everybody plays the same amount of conference games. But for now, with the Big Ten and the SEC, make it so simple for everybody. Just play 9 conference games, and you might end up getting 4 automatic qualifiers in the playoff.
Yeah, I think that would, if they don't go that direction, we might just be going back to a 5+11 or keeping it at 12, which I'd be down for. Superman Seiko wearing it on the chest, loud and proud down there.
I like it.
Yeah, I would like your thoughts on the matter, good sir.
I mean, it's a no-brainer. I don't know why the SEC gets an exception because, well, we play in the. That's what you say. You say you play in the toughest conference, so that's cope for.
Oh, you're referring to them. I thought you were talking to me. I was like, what did I do?
No, the SEC says, well, we're the toughest conference, so we get to make the rules. We get to play 8 games and we get to schedule Chattanooga in week 10, week 11, and it shouldn't hurt our ranking. Okay, well then if you're that great, then you have no issues playing a 9-game schedule. Look, it should be even across the board. I think that because of where we are, since this is an equal playoff system, that means you have to follow equal rules. So Notre Dame should be in a conference. The SEC and everybody else should be playing 9 conference games. There's no special exceptions anymore if you want the same treatment going into the playoff system that everybody else is vying for. So why is it rules for thee but not for anybody else? The SEC rules for thee but not for the SEC.
I want to come back to the Notre Dame point, but first I'll get Goins and Roman to weigh in here.
Yeah, well, here's how I look at it is basically what everybody else says is play an even amount of conference games. But I'm also in the category of knocking off one of these cupcake non-conference games that, the G5s or even, down to FCS level type of thing. Get one of those off the schedule and play another power conference game. Have a Big Ten play an SEC, have the Big 12 play the ACC, or put it on some sort of a rotation. I mean, why not play these other conferences and sort of settle these debates early on before you even get to the college football playoff? And then you have something else as a resume builder before you get to November and December. As long as there's an even amount of conference games across all the major conferences, I don't really care, but I'm also in favor of playing other teams and other conferences early on in the season.
Jacob, despite your obvious objections to me, just generally speaking, you clearly listen to Locked On College Football regularly, because I have thrown out the idea of conference challenges like we do in conference basketball for a long time. They're great.
They're awesome.
They are phenomenally great, and you could do it every year. I have a whole system, but I don't need to go down that particular rabbit hole. Roman, are you pro or anti-bullying the SEC? You got to think about that decision now.
I'm absolutely pro bullying the SEC. Especially
put it on the record. Roman, pro bullying. Everybody editing this, just clip that. Roman, pro bullying.
I'm shocked that that's the route Spencer wants to go with, especially after beating Texas each of the last 2 years. It's great to bully the SEC every chance you get, but on top of that, I love where Jacob is going with this, because that was one of the big things that I wanted to bring up. I'm so tired of playing Cathedral in Week 11 when you're Alabama or Georgia. Yeah, no, it's just an extra bye week.
Citadel.
It's ridiculous.
It's the Clemson. Clemson is always playing the Citadel in Week 11.
Yeah.
Whoever it is, whenever it is, I don't care. I'm exhausted by it. As we have to see one of our teams here go up against a tough conference opponent. Yeah, no, I'm absolutely tired of that. And if you want to go the route of a Big Ten SEC challenge every year, I think that'd be awesome. That'd be a lot of fun. But as long as it's universal, I don't care. You can find a way to make it work.
Yeah, I think you could. I want to go back to this Notre Dame point, because Notre Dame is the only realignment chess piece that would actually be coveted by the Big Ten or the SEC, but they have been adamant time and again. They don't want to join a league. They don't need to. And, if you go to a 5+11 format, and frankly, just with the straight seeding system that we're going to have in the playoffs starting this year, Notre Dame can now earn a bye. I don't know if I'm on an island on this. I want to do a quick roundtable discussion on it. I am okay with Notre Dame not being in a conference, just from the standpoint that I'm a college football traditionalist and the NFL has nothing like it. It's just one of those things. And Notre Dame doesn't play a cupcake schedule every year. They've got Texas A&M this year. They play 5 ACC games. They've got Miami to start this season. They play USC every year. They play legit games. So I am okay if Notre Dame were to be left alone, though realignment content is very good for my program.
They can no conference, no automatic bid. That's how I look at it. You can earn a way in if they feel that you are worthy enough and a good enough team to get to the playoff, but there should not be a special clause for Notre Dame, even though there will be, because they bring in money and ratings, and I know how that works. No conference, no automatic bid for Notre Dame. That's how I look at it.
Others?
I think he said it perfectly.
Okay, calm down. Jacob has never said anything perfectly in his life. Why don't we say he said it?
Spencer, you're just mad somebody else is stealing your spotlight right now. It's okay.
That is objectively false. I'm in the top left, which is the position of power here on the Locked On Big Ten squad. So that's I'm not worried about that whatsoever.
I did want to say it's kind of funny. Earlier, Jacob was talking about not scheduling non-conference patsies. He may be listening to Locked On College Football, but the Indiana football program is not listening to Jacob.
You're right. Please get Indiana State off of Kennesaw State off my schedule. Please, I don't want to play those folks. I don't.
Yeah, take the FCS bye games, make them the spring games, send the paycheck that way, because the money does need to go. That's a non-zero amount of money for a lot of athletic departments. I'm not in favor of. That's a different conversation. I tell you one conversation Sonny's going to enjoy, or loathe, depending on where people land. Illinois' win total is up. It's surging to 8.5. Over, under. That's coming up next. First, this episode brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, It can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Have you ever had that one financial goal that you're trying to reach, whatever it is? Monarch Money can help you get there. Their all-in-one convenience is what they're all about. You do it all in one place. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. monarchmoney.com. Illinois, in my view, the most underrated Big Ten title contender in this wonderful conference. Sonny Verma of Locked On Illini is here. And Sonny, I'll give you the choice. 8.5 for Illinois' win total. You can go over, you can go under. You cannot go right on the number because we don't do ties. This isn't soccer. So you can start and we shall respond. 8.5 for Illinois, trending up within the last month. Money clearly coming in on Brett Bielema to win 9 or 10 games this year. Where are you taking them?
I liked it a lot better a few weeks ago at 7.5, but even at 8.5, I think, the national media is starting to catch up to Illinois, and that win over the SEC in that bowl game is, starting to make noise. 18 of 22 starters coming back. You take a look at that schedule. There's one game I don't feel confident winning. Every other game on that schedule, I think Illinois has at the worst 50-50 chance at winning. Actually, more than that. I think there's maybe 3 or 4 games that are 50-50 toss-ups. I think 8.5, I still think they can win 9. Honestly, I think they won 10 last year. They can win 10 this year.
Yeah, and obviously that was a 9-win regular season plus the bowl victory, but I do think that's kind of on the table. I assume the one game you don't feel confident in winning is Rutgers, because they are just upset-minded there in Piscataway. I mean, Ohio State and Washington are on here. I don't know what kind of threat those teams could pose. But Jay Stevens, I'll toss it to you. You have to go to Champaign to what will likely be a sold-out Memorial Stadium. If Illinois is undefeated, which the Buckeyes should be as well. Well, Ohio State's got Texas. No. Even if they have one loss, Ohio State and Illinois could be college game day. It'd be phenomenal. I don't know, Sonny, have they been to Champaign before?
Never. We're one of like 3 schools.
I'm just saying the opportunity's there. Jay, how concerned are you about going on the road for what will be maybe the biggest game in the history of Memorial Stadium?
I'm not that concerned because of when the game is played for Ohio State. The one thing I think for that game specifically for Illinois is that'll be their 7th game in a row. They don't get a bye week, an off week until after the Ohio State game. So where a lot of schools, you're playing 3 games in an off week or 4 or 5 in an off week, Illinois is playing 7 straight, and their 7th is the Ohio State game. I got that one penciled in as a loss. That's the only one to look at the schedule and say it's a definite loss. I got 5 absolute wins. But of the 6 remaining games that I consider toss-ups, do I see Illinois being able to win enough of those toss-up games to have 9 wins? I don't. I'm going with the under with this one. I think they're going to be a really competitive team, but I have a hard time believing they're going to be able to win 9 games this year.
Yeah, Sonny, you hear that? You hear that disrespect coming from the top right corner? It's like his team just won a national championship or something. My goodness. The audacity. Seiko, how grateful are you that the Nittany Lions don't play the Fighting Illini this year?
Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, that was one. Penn State won comfortably, but not till the end. And you referenced ties at the beginning, and I got a cold shiver because there are no ties, and it actually takes 9 overtimes to lose to Illinois if you're on the wrong side of that. So I like this Illinois team a lot. I don't like that more of the public, more of the media is getting invested into this team. Bringing back 90% of your starters, give or take, is very beneficial. That will help you in the beginning of the season against tough teams like because Indiana, USC, those 2 teams are dark horses to be competitors in the top half of the Big Ten. Those are teams that are looking to get into the college football playoffs. So those are those toss-ups that Sonny's referring to. But after the Ohio State game, you could rattle off 5 wins in a row and then find yourself at at 10-2, which I think is very much doable. I look at Illinois as a fringe, as this year's Indiana, if you will. I think Indiana's still going to be really good. Indiana could be this year's Indiana, but I think Illinois and Indiana are in that category of teams that, hey, could find themselves as a 10 or an 11 seed in this playoff, both of them, but specifically Illinois.
If I could point one thing out, if you're thinking of Indiana of being this year's Indiana, by default, that means they can't be this year's Indiana. That is the rule.
Yeah, let's keep that on the down low. Let's not talk anything about it. No,
we've said Indiana too many times on this podcast already.
I agree. Let's start using the word Hoosiers instead. So, Jacob, your Hoosiers host Illinois for what will almost certainly be a loss, just to spite you, on September 20th. How are you feeling, my man?
I feel really excited for that game, for what it could be. I am worried about it because that's Indiana's first real game. I mentioned the fact that our first 3 games of the season are all of our non-conference cupcake games. I hate that. I think it's terrible. Thank goodness this is in Bloomington and not at Illinois, because I wouldn't feel as good about it, because I just don't know what Indiana's going to be that early in the season without playing an actual team beforehand. I do think Indiana's the better team. I think it's close. I have Indiana winning that game. A toss-up game for me is USC. I think USC's good. I don't think they're great. Marc is here, so I can't dunk on them as hard as I would like to. That's a toss-up game for me for Illinois. I think they get off to a nice start. I think the end of their schedule, like Zach was saying, is very manageable. I'm not giving them a win at Washington, though. I think that's a tough road trip to make. I think Washington's a sleeper team in the Big Ten. I'm going to go under 8.5 for Illinois. They're going to get 8, but they're going to go under 8.5.
Just two very different reactions there. Roman's down there grinning like, nice, somebody here said something good about my team. That was great. I'll give you a moment here in a sec, Roman. But Sonny, you were shaking your head. There was a visceral nodding left to right for you. So please respond to this gentleman down underneath you.
I'm just really looking forward to that game against Indiana. There's no other way to put it. You know, obviously, I feel like Brett Bielema's got that game circled. He knows Indiana, Illinois, two of the surprise teams in the Big Ten last year. Indiana fans, look, I'll be honest. I'm probably the oldest guy here on this panel. They've been chirping for my entire life, mainly on the basketball side. Illinois has had a better basketball program and football program my entire life, but not the way they talk. They had one good football season, and that whole basketball crowd migrated over to the football side. And now they're trying to convince you they win 11-12. They're the greatest story in college football. Illinois takes a little more quiet route.
They were. They absolutely.
They kind of were.
They were. I think that game against Illinois is going to be fascinating. I'm with you. I think it's going to be a really, really good game. I really do.
Absolutely. No, it's the one game I'm looking forward to most on the schedule, because I think it's going to mean so much for both programs, because they're both kind of fighting for that same spot, like right outside that first tier in the Big Ten, the up-and-comer, 2 coaches who are really trying to, Brett's kind of established himself, but he's trying to establish the Illinois brand name in a higher tier than we're perceived at. And Stignetti's doing the same thing with Indiana.
Sonny, you were about to send me into another dimension before you said in basketball when talking about Indiana fans being noisy and confident. I was like, where did you find those folks? Where have they been? Before this past year, I wasn't sure Indiana had football fans, but now we know. Now we know. And respect is warranted. And as Michigan would tell you from last year, amongst every other team that went to Husky Stadium, respect is warranted for that place on Montlake. So, Roman, are you looking at Illinois as a team that Washington can beat, should beat, or might beat?
I just want to take 5 seconds to say that's the nicest thing that Spencer has said about the Washington program all year. Wow.
That's called gross.
Yeah, I admitted some facts. I had to say them.
That is absolutely spectacular. No, that's a game that I've had circled for a while, just to quote Jacob there, since I enjoyed that back and forth a lot. But I think that's a game that is going to be really interesting, because Jay alluded to it, that Illinois' bye comes after that Ohio State game, and then they come to Washington. And it's a stadium where, Sonny, I think it's something that your entire fan base will greatly enjoy, that environment, what it could turn into. And Washington, I like the way the schedule shapes up for them this season. And I think it's a game where Washington could very realistically be coming into that game with maybe 1 or 2 losses at the very worst, in my opinion. And the more I look at it, the more I think that that's going to end up being a battle of top 25 teams at that point in time. And Washington and Illinois, they're just coming at this from very different angles. So, Illinois got all their returning starters. Washington has a handful. So I just look at it from that light, and I think that's going to be really exciting. I have the under just barely, where I look at that game against Duke, like Spencer, you alluded to. That one, Ohio State, Washington, I think that the Huskies do come out on top there. And then, one of USC going to Wisconsin might end up being difficult there towards the end of the season. I look at one of those, and I was kind of teetering where I said, all right, you know what, I'm just going to stick at the under right now. And that game at Husky Stadium is going to be a big reason why.
Yeah, Washington has sneakily one of the best home slates in college football this year. Season ticket holders like my Uncle Terry are going to get their money's worth this year because Illinois is coming to town, Ohio State's coming to town, Oregon's coming to town, Oregon's coming to town. I mean, just so many big names and brands and whatnot. Anyway, so we'll go quick rapid fire. I'm taking the over with Illinois. I've liked them for a while, Sonny. I'm not backing off on them now. I think the back half can see them win a lot of games. As long as they beat either Duke or Washington, I think they will comfortably get to at least 9 wins this year. Otherwise, it might be a sweat. So I'm taking them over. Sonny's got them over. Jay?
Under.
Seiko?
Over.
Goins?
Under.
And Roman's under. Is that a perfect 3-3 split? Wow, who could possibly be the tie-breaking vote? It's me, tie-breaking vote. So that means majority of us think that it's over because my votes are worth 1.5. That's a rule that I just made up. So we'll say goodbye to Sonny and we'll talk about something that should not, but probably will happen next. First, this episode brought to you by Rugiet. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them, but if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast. On average, in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked for you guys, Rugiet might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch, and now you can too. Head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege and use promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Check them out today at Rugiet.com/LockedOnCollege. So on the table, reportedly, is an expansion of the NCAA tournament, and for those of you that have listened to or watched my work for a long time, you probably know where I stand on this particular matter, because when you expand one thing, you expand all the things. And when you keep expanding all the things, you just keep minimizing the regular season. So this is on the table, Jay Stevens, to go to maybe to 76 teams. Might allow Ohio State to finally get back into the NCAA tournament. But
Not Penn State.
Yeah, that's why I referred the question to Jay, not to you. But I just think of this in the same way I see the playoff expansion in college football. I'm like, when are you going to stop? What's enough? What's a big enough field? I don't know. You tell me.
They're never going to stop. I thought it was going to hit to 96. I didn't think 76 was going to be the number that they almost got to, but they're never going to stop. It's money. It's easy to make. You're going to sell out these arenas. You're going to get TV companies, CBS and Turner, to buy out the rights to broadcast these games. They're never going to stop. It sucks. It's stupid. I think there's over 300 D1 basketball teams, college basketball teams, and you're going to get, maybe a third of them eventually, not now, but eventually will be in the tournament. That's dumb. That's absolutely absurd. But that's where we are right now with this sport. I don't like it. Here's the weird thing. It does benefit Ohio State. And I hate that it benefits Ohio State, because Ohio State should never be a team that's on the outside of a field of 64 or a field of 68. But if it was a field of 76 this past season, they would be in the big dance. And so as much as I don't like expanding the tournament, it benefits Ohio State. So that's kind of where I am on this weird little experience right now. Like, I don't want it, but it benefits the Buckeyes.
Just bring back Aaron Kraft. You'll be fine. He's still got eligibility. Roman, are you wanting to get the field to 76 teams? With the way Danny Sprinkle's been bringing in talent, it doesn't look like he needs a 76-team tournament to get his team in the field.
Two nice things. Let's go. Just good on you again.
I'm just in a good mood today.
Absolutely not. I hate this so much. Everything that Jay said is spot on. It is about the ratings. It is about the money, which is cool and fun. But it was cool and fun at 64 teams too, and it's still cool and fun at 68. And just anything beyond that, it's just gonna get drawn out too much. Just like we don't want to get to 16 teams. We know it's gonna get there eventually on the football side of things, but it's just exhausting at a certain point where. Like if it's eventually at 96 and you have to win 7-8 games to get to the Final Four, like it's just exhausting. We don't need to get that far.
Seiko?
It doesn't affect it. I mean, I'll talk about the wrestling tournament.
How big is the wrestling tournament?
Well, see, because it's so individual based, it's not team based, so that anybody and everyone can qualify if they meet criteria. So I guess they could add more wrestlers and expand the tournament out in theory, which, it's the same conversation. If you're going to apply it to wrestling, at what point does it stop? But in the case of basketball, why basketball is not going to, you don't have this debate around wrestling because there's not this clamoring for, well, we want to see this wrestler sneak in. And if we get maybe a dozen more, that will really help the ratings. No, wrestling doesn't have that kind of, I think ESPN would like to give up. No, I won't go that far, but the schools above all else would want this because it means they get a cut. Those mid-major schools that would now get another opportunity because we saw this year the blue bloods, the schools with hefty NIL money. If you took the top 3 seeds, you were very close to having a perfect bracket. And we're going to see,
yep.
Yeah, all 4 number ones made it.
We were going to see, yeah, but I'm saying like in terms of the Elite 8, I think if you picked, it was one double-digit seed that made it to the Sweet 16. More or less, don't quote me on that. But now those mid-majors, they lose out on those bids, which means they lose out on millions of dollars, which basically funds a year's worth of expenses for their program. So we as spectators, journalists, fans, whatever, don't want this, but the schools do primarily, and the networks do because it's about survival, especially for the mid-majors or schools that might not routinely make this. You open up 20, 30 more spots, that's a chance at, and the more money too. So it's not just, we get a cut of $1 million. Now it could be $2, $3, $4, $5 million. If you happen to get lucky to go on a Cinderella run, and you could fund your program and finally be a little more relevant and competitive because it is an arms race in terms of money. And Duke is going to continue to make Final Fours or Elite Eights because they have the money and the support to continue to do that.
Yeah. Goins is someone who I'm usually inclined to think is going to say the wrong thing, but he's got a chance to redeem himself here.
I always do. I will come to the defense of wrestling and say that college wrestling is awesome. The tournament is incredible.
It is.
March Madness is awesome. I watch it every year. So isn't that awesome? Isn't that incredible?
Yeah,
it needs
good.
more. It needs.
I'm talking
more
about the
viewership.
market, though, not the product itself. The market, the market doesn't
absolutely.
Respect it enough.
I agree. Yeah, it needs better marketing. It needs more viewership. It needs more money. I 100% with you on that side of things. And my entire view on expansion is simple: expansion of the college football playoff, expansion of the NCAA basketball tournament, heck, expansion of the NFL playoffs now with more teams making that. The more you expand, the further away we get from the idea of crowning a true national champion, crowning the true champion of the sport. Letting in 90-something teams is not the best way to crown the best team in the country, especially in a single elimination tournament. Like, think of all the things that can go wrong across an 8 or 9 game journey that we're discussing. Like, it's almost impossible. You have to almost be more lucky than good just to win a national title in that instance. So I hate it. I think it's stupid, but they clearly don't care about what we think.
Let's wrap with this. 12-team playoff in football right now. How many teams do you want to see in the playoff? I say keep it at 12 or regress it back to 6. Jay, what say you?
Exactly what you said.
Perfect. Jay is the smartest guy here. Roman?
I'm okay keeping it at 12. I would say if you're going to drop it down, go to 8, but I'd be cool with 6 too, just to keep the theme rolling.
Seiko, how many?
I want to go back to the BCS.
Yeah!
Hey,
Let's
that
go.
Go back to the BCS.
Wow.
You had the BCS last year. Oregon's playing who? Probably Georgia in the national championship game?
And they lose
Maybe.
6-7 again.
What?
You heard me.
No, I didn't.
I did.
But
No, not that Georgia team.
we
Not
are
that.
so far removed from the regionality because we've nationalized college football. We have to expand. We have to go. So there's no going to 4 or 6. Eventually, it's going to be what 24. I mean, what FCS Division 2, Division 3.
Yep.
So-
Yep.
We'll get to 24. We'll get to 24. I'll be sick to my stomach on that day. Goins, how many teams in football? Take us home.
Backwards 6 or 8, whichever one. I'm fine.
Nice. Good takes. Jay Stevens, Locked On Buckeyes. Roman Tomashoff, Locked On Huskies. Zach Seiko, Locked On Nittany Lions. Jacob Goins, Locked On Hoosiers. We had Sonny Verma from Locked On Illini earlier. I'm Spencer McLaughlin, Locked On all over the place. We appreciate you listening. See you next time. And until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.